You're listening to Sports Connections with David Smale, the show that brings you a fun and intimate look into connections throughout sports. Now here's your host, David Smale.
Bobby Bell is the best athlete in the 61-year history of the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think there's any debate about that. He was a two-time All-American at Minnesota, where he won the 1962 Outland Trophy and finished third in the Heisman Trophy. In his 12-year career with the Chiefs, he scored 9 touchdowns, 6 on interceptions, 2 on fumble recoveries, and 1 on a return of an onside kick. With 4.5 speed and at 6'4", 225, this linebacker also had the best arm on the team. We'll talk to him about that in a minute. He was the first Chiefs player to be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as part of the class of 1983. He was a 6-time All-Pro and 9-time Pro Bowl player, and he was named to the NFL 100 all-time team following the 2019 season. Bobby, welcome to Sports Connections.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure. Now, you were obviously a great all-around athlete. Why did you choose to play football?
Why did I choose to play football?
I'm sure you had other options with your athleticism.
I did. Well, the thing is, though, I had an opportunity. I wanted to play baseball, and I love baseball. I thought I was going to be a baseball. I played baseball and basketball, but the reason I chose football, I guess, is because that I wanted to go to a big school and play. After I started looking at some of these colleges and stuff like that, and I'm in North Carolina. And I went to a segregated school, all blacks, So I never played with, the white kids. And so what happened is that I ended up playing an all-star game in North Carolina, in Greensboro. And the white coaches that came over, they wanted to see us play in this all-star game. And a coach from North Carolina, late Jim Taylor, was a coach there. And a couple of coaches from Michigan State, they watched me, and I was supposed to be I was a quarterback, 6-man. I played 6-man quarterback, and that first time playing 11-man. And what happened is that I went there, and they had the 3 great quarterbacks, AAA quarterbacks, like we was a single A. So what happened is that the coach said, "We got 3 great quarterbacks, Bob." He said, "You want to play running back?" I said, "Fine, I wanted to play, So I ended up getting in the game in the first quarter, at the middle of the quarter, and I never came out of the game. Scored a few touchdowns. I ended up getting most valuable player of the game, and that's when late Jim Taylor called Coach Warmont at University of Minnesota, and told him, if you have one scholarship left, I want you to give it to this black kid. He just played up next to the mountain in Shelby, North Carolina. He played 6-man quarterback. He's a great player. If you've got one scholarship, offer it to him. And I guarantee you, he'll make your team." That's how I started playing football, because Minnesota never saw me play, and they had to take the word of someone else that saw me. We didn't have film. They could nothing. So they sent me to Minnesota. I got to go to Minnesota for the first time being on a plane. Got on the plane, went there, and I told my dad, if these guys gives me a scholarship, I want to come up there. And that's how I ended up playing football instead of baseball. I had a chance to play baseball at the Chicago. They had some scouts looking at me, and they wanted me to go play baseball. And I told my dad I was going to go play baseball, and I can help the family out. He said, "We don't need no help. I thought you wanted to go to school." I said, I can pay my way to go to school. He said, "No, you won't." He said, "If you get the opportunity, you take it and you go." So that's what I ended up doing. So I never looked over my shoulders since then. I went to University of Minnesota, and I played freshman quarterback. Sophomore year, Coach Walmer told me, he brought me in his office and said, "Hey, I'm going to switch you to offensive tackle." I went from ball handler to man handler now, tackle. I thought he was joking, and, I ended up I said, hey, it came out my sophomore year. See, you couldn't play your freshman year back then. So I ended up coming out, and he had me listed as an offensive tackle. And I was on like the 13th team. I had to work my way up the ladder to get there, to start. You know, Sid Hartman, you heard of Sid Hartman. He was mad. He wouldn't talk to me. He told Coach Woolman that you wasted your scholarship on a North Carolina kid that you never seen before. He's not going to do anything. You just wait. We got kids around here. So it ended up, you know, I determined that I was going to play on this university team. And that's how I ended up at Minnesota.
Just talk. I mean, you started there as a freshman quarterback, then you went to offensive tackle. Obviously, by the time you graduated from there, you were a defensive star. How did you get switched over to the defensive line?
Well, when I started, I was the only sophomore to start the sophomore year. It was a senior and junior team. They didn't think a sophomore would start. And I said, I'm going to start. I'm going to fight my way up. There's no way. So I ended up, you know, played the first game as a sophomore. And I was a tackle. Never played it before. Because I was there. Went both ways. I played offensive tackle and also played defense. I went both ways. Defense and offense. I went both ways. And then I ended up being the center on punts and field goals. That's how I ended up. I never did it before, but that's how I ended up doing that.
Yeah, I was going to ask one of those because that was one of the things that as I've done research, when I did the research on the book about your career, I didn't remember that you were also the long snapper. I mean, you could basically do everything, couldn't you?
Well, you know, if you're a utility man, you're the most important guy on the team.
Yeah.
You can play all the positions. So, if the coach said, hey, can you play this? I go, yes. I said, if you coach me, tell me what you want. And, you know, I can do it. I can do it.
So could you have been I mean, you're obviously in the College Football Hall of Fame as well. Could you have been a Hall of Fame offensive tackle, a Hall of Fame running back? You obviously shined as a defensive player on the line. Was that your best position, do you think?
That's a good question. You know, I don't know. I could, whatever position they put me at, I want to be the best one out there, and that's the way I approach life. You know, I want to be the best. If they want me to snap the ball, that's what I want to be the best one. If they want me to play offensive end, I'll be the best offensive end. But that's what I, drive on. You know, I want to be the best, whatever it is.
I saw a quote somewhere. It's that Hank Stram said you could play all 22 positions on the field and play them well. And obviously, what you just said, you probably agree with that because you wanted to be the best. Did you ever lobby Coach Stram to play on offense with the Chiefs?
Well, I didn't never lobby about that, but he knew that if he needed a player to fill in offense-wise, he can always call on me, and I'll fill that spot. But that's what I did though. Offense, defense, whatever I on the field. When I fill out the test for defense, I don't only fill out, Bobby, what I do. I fill out what everybody do on defense because I like to know what everybody else is doing. And so I could play their position. If he wanted me to play offense, I would play the offense. And he knew that. And, because one time he asked me, he said, if I needed you to run the ball, you think you still can run the ball? I said, Coach, yes, I can still do that. I said, Coach, any position. I used to tease with him, Yeah.
All right.
I can pass the ball, like Lenny Dawson, I don't know. One time, we was at practice, Jan Stenerud, he came up to, we was out in practice, they have the big old, what we call the cherry pickers,
Right.
where Coach Spam sits on, stands on him and Yarbrough or something like. So we just standing there. Yarbrough said, "God, man, look, man, you reckon Lenny could throw the ball from here down there to the cherry picker, to it?" And he was just laughing about it. And I was laughing. I said, "That's nothing." Oh man, he looked at me. He said, "What?" I said, "I throw the ball over the cherry picker." He said, "Oh, come on." He betted me that I couldn't do it. I said, "All right, give me the ball." He betted me $100. Jan Stenrud. I threw the ball over the cherry picker. He took him about 8 months to pay me, though.
It's funny.
About 8 years. About 8 years. It was a long time.
I interviewed him for a podcast that we're going to run soon as well. And he told that same story. And he actually said it was more than 8 years. And he finally offered to pay him. And I don't remember exact details, but it was like you were laughing at him. And it was like you almost preferred that he didn't pay so you could hold it over his head that he still owed you the $100.
Oh, yeah. It cost every time we was go out somewhere in a function or something like that, and if he's there, I said, "Well, excuse me before." I said, I see Jan Stenrud here. I said, "Jan, do you remember we had a bet going?" He hated that. Yeah. I bring it up. And everybody would go like, "Come on." And when if he got up, he told, it's a true story.
Yep. I've got another one to ask you about in a little bit. I want to talk about your college career a little bit. I kind of jumped off track here a little bit. You were, if I understand correctly, you were the first defensive player to finish in the top 3 in the Heisman Trophy voting. Your college exploits are legendary. What are the highlights for you of your college career?
Now, highlights. Wow. I don't know. My highlights is winning the Big Ten 2 years in a row, going to the Rose Bowl 2 years in a row, national champ. I mean, how can we stop, The Outland Trophy, and Heisman, it's I don't know. It's a story behind that one, And the year Ernie Davidson got the Heisman Trophy the year before, he was the first black.
Right. Syracuse running back.
And the thing happened is I was on the All-American ticket. I have pictures. I was on the All-American team that year, my junior year, when he was a senior, and he won that. And next year came up, and I found out that I came in 3rd. And they had a question about, how did I get there, And the writers and all that stuff said, well, he's a lineman, because they never gave it to a lineman. It's always a running back, a quarterback, So they were scrambling around to figure out who can get the Heisman Trophy that year.
Who did win it that year?
Kerry Baker.
Oregon State?
Yeah, you ever heard of him?
Yeah, or he was the last Heisman Trophy winner to play in the Final Four that same year.
Yep.
There's a trivia question for you. Okay.
I knew that. The thing, they picked Terry, but he played in that. What else? I mean, I don't think he played in did he play in the NFL?
If he did, he didn't play for very long.
He didn't. I think somebody drafted him, but he ended up, that's the year in 1963. It was that the All-Star team played Green Bay. You remember that?
Yeah, in the college All-Star game. Did you guys beat them?
Yep.
That's I love the matter of factness of that answer. Yep.
We beat them hands down. Vanderkillen was a quarterback.
Okay.
Terry Baker never got in the game.
Hmm.
And Vanderkillen got most valuable player. And I never played linebacker in that game. And I never played let's rephrase that. I never played linebacker before, but in that game, Otto Graham told me that you can't you're not a tackle, so go down there with the linebacker. So I went down with the linebacker. And guess who the linebackers were?
All right. I'm trying to think of that era.
Okay, I never played linebacker before, and I ended up playing linebacker. Leroy Jordan ended up playing the middle linebacker. He was the offensive center from L. He was a center, and Dave Robertson, Green Bay.
Yeah,
he was a tight end. So Otto sent up me and him down there to play linebacker, and we ended up playing linebacker, and Leroy Jordan, the middle linebacker, and we just ate him up.
and that was your start. I mean, obviously, you're in the Pro Football Hall of Fame because of your linebacker career.
Yeah.
So I wonder. I mean, there's no way of knowing if you would have been moved to linebacker in professional football, but that certainly was a big boost to your career, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, that was a boost. I mean, I ended up playing because when I got to Kansas City, I was still a defensive end. I was a defensive end, and Coach Stram ended up moving me back and forth. He said, "Any place I want you, I can play you."
Yeah,
that's what happened. And also, by Otto moving us down there to play linebacker, we both end up in the Hall of Fame. Dave Robertson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good move. All right. We're airing this NFL draft week. Obviously, the draft has changed a lot since you were drafted following the 62 season. I want to ask you a couple things about the draft. How did you find out that you had been drafted by the Chiefs?
Well, really, I didn't find out until Lamar Hunt called me and asked, can he come up and visit with me? And that's when I realized, because at that time, playing college ball, everybody told me I wouldn't be able to play in the NFL because I was 225, defensive end. They wanted something bigger than that. And so I said, okay, fine. I'm just going to end up getting my degree and come on out of school and go and get me a job. And Lamar is the one that called me to tell me that they had drafted me 7th. And the reason they did, they thought that I was going to end up going to the Minnesota Vikings, because they drafted me in like the 2nd round. I mean, I was second. I mean, I was a number 2 for them in the draft. And everybody said, well, he went to Minnesota, so he's going to stay there. So we're going to be done. But Lamar, I dealt with Lamar. I never talked to Coach Stram until after I agreed to sign. I never talked to the scout. It was Lamar that I dealt with the whole time that I was, in Minnesota. And at that time, it was Dallas, Texas.
Right.
They hadn't moved yet. They were still in Dallas, because that's when I was talking to Lamar in 1962. In 1962. And Lamar, is in Dallas, Texas. He said, I want you to come down and visit the place. And I said, okay. But my senior year, I was going to be on Ed Sullivan show, Johnny Carson show, and all that stuff during December, I was playing also. I just too busy. I'm going all over because I was an All-American. I won the Heisman Trophy. I'm up for that. I mean, I said, well, I'll get down there, And that's after I agreed in December to sign with him, because I didn't want to sign with him because I wasn't going to sign with him because everybody was saying to me in the NFL that you can't, you don't want to go to Dallas, Texas. He said they're not going to last 3 or 4 more years, maybe 3 years. Because at that time when I was talking to him, they had played, he had started 2 years prior to that. So everybody was thinking they were going to be out the door.
So why did you choose to sign with the AFL?
Well, Lamar said that we're going to be around a long time. Huh? And I believed him. He said, we're not going anywhere. And my guy I didn't have no agent. I had a man in Don Knutson at Minnesota, He had a big construction company. He built that dome for the Vikings and all that high rising. And he was just like a dad to me. He dealt with Lamar, and we sat there. He said, well, Lamar, just say, oh, you're going to be around. I said, okay. And Minnesota, I wanted a 3-year contract with him, and Minnesota would not give me a guaranteed contract. And okay. I got a guaranteed contract from Lamar Hunt. That's in 1962. 7 years.
Yeah.
He personally guaranteed it.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know him well. I did get a chance to know Lamar Hunt. I've never heard anybody who dealt with him, either played for him, coached for him, dealt with him on business. I've never heard anybody who had any dealings with Lamar Hunt who didn't say very, very positive things.
Well, he's a man of the word, and the thing about Lamar, and when I agreed to sign, with the contract, I said I agreed on it. And we got up, he shook my hand. He said, we got a deal. And Don said, you have a contract we can look at and stuff? Lamar said, what? What? A contract. He said, no. He said, well, we like to have the contract. We can go through it and, everything. And he said, I don't have one. And he said, you tell me what you want on it, and my man told us that we called, I guess, Dallas and talked to the lawyers and all the stuff like that. And after that, we had a deal. And Lamar asked me, he said, Bobby said, what are you going to New York? I said, yeah, I got to fly to New York. He said, well, I got to go to New York too. He said, well, we get on the same plane. We're going up to New York. So we flew into Kennedy Airport in New York, rode with Lamar, and we get off the plane, got a little luggage and stuff, He said, I know you're going to be on Johnny Carson, Ed Sullivan show. He said, how you getting to your hotel? He thought they were going to pick me up in a limo, a limo or something, I said, catch a cab, And I go, okay, catch a cab. He said, okay. He gets in the cab. But he told the cab driver to go to his hotel first. And this time I said, I thought maybe he'd take me to my hotel.
Yeah.
And he took him to a hotel, and then he knocks on the window and said, hey, Bell. Said, he got his bag out. I rolled the window down on the cab. I said, hey, he said, you got any cash on you? Pay for the cab? And I go, I said, yes, sir. Oh, prior to that, we had to go through the toll gate, and then the cab driver, he reached the hand back like this, it's like 15 cents, that's in 1962. And I looked at Lamar, he ain't budged, man. I gave the cab driver 15 cents, and we go through the toll, I'm thinking, wait a minute. So I end up going to his hotel. Then I end up going to my hotel. I paid the cab driver, I paid the 15 cents. And I run in and checked in the hotel in the Waldorfs, and I ran upstairs and I called Don Knutson in Minnesota. I said, Don, did I do the right thing? Signing a contract with Lamar for the Dallas, Texas. He said, oh, what's wrong? I said, Lamar, yeah. He said, no, it's all right. I said, no, he's broke. He said, what? I said, he's broke. And in my heart, I thought he was, I said, he don't have cab money. He don't have 15 cents, And he goes, "Oh no, no," and that was Lamar. But he did pay me though. He
He
found
did.
pay
He did pay you back the 50 cents or 15 cents.
50. I'm gonna see if you can see this.
Okay, Chiefs letterhead.
It says
He can't hardly read his writing here.
Bobby Bell, the old one, who was 8-man high school quarterback.
That's what he put on the card. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
And he sent me on my 60th birthday. I don't know if you can see that.
A dime and a nickel.
15 cents. He pasted to it. And that's my birthday card.
That's
He
great.
said, "Happy birthday." And he said, he paid me up for 15 cents. He paid me that. I asked him when I saw him, I said, "Lamar, I got a question." We was up on a club level. I said, "By the way, I thank you for the birthday card." I said, "But where's the rest of the money?" He said, "It's in the mail. It's in the mail." And he gives me the birthday. He noticed that he signs it. He writes his birthdays out himself.
Yeah.
He sent me a birthday card, you know. And so he said, "Oh no, he got the 15." I showed that to Clark when I don't know, a few years ago. I said, "Clark, I got something." I said, "Well, I showed it to him. He said, "That's my dad."
Yeah. That's awesome.
That was him though. Lamar was unbelievable, man. He was just unbelievable.
One of the things.
His word was like the contract.
Yeah.
If he said you're going to do something, and you know, and I thought the world of Lamar, because every time you see him, you know, he asked me, "How you doing? How your family?" He asked me about your family, your brother, your sister, your wife, everybody. He just say, "Hey, how's everybody doing?" He never. And every time he called me, he would call me and ask me to do something. He said, "I'm gonna be at so and so." Say, "I'd like for you to be there with me," and I would do it every time.
Yeah.
I'll go. I travel all over the country too, and I told Ralph Wilson the story about the cab. I was presenting Lamar a trophy up in Buffalo. And he thought, "Oh, he's sitting in the arch with all the tables around, you know." And I got up and started talking. I said, "Oh, excuse me, but before I get started here about Lamar Hunt," I said, "Lamar, I never told nobody that before. I was scared to tell somebody." And I said to him, I said, "Lamar, you remember when I agreed to you to sign with the Dallas, Texas?" He's sitting there with his head going, like, he's smiling. "Yeah, I remember that." He said, "You remember when I came to Minnesota?" I went through all the story. I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah." He going shaking his head. I said, and Ralph Wilson is sitting there too, right now, next table. And I said, "You remember we had to get on the plane and fly to New York? I was going to be on Johnny Carson Ed Sullivan show." I said, "You know, we had to take a cab to the hotel. You went to your hotel first." I said, "Oh, by the way, before you did that, we went through the toll." I said, "I had to pay the 15 cents for the toll. I figured you was going to get the cab money, out. And I said, but you went to your hotel first, and you asked me, did I have the cash to pay the cab driver? I ended up paying the cab driver." I said, "Well, when are you going to pay me back?" And Ralph Wilson yelled at Lamar, "Lamar, pay the man." I mean, everybody in the place lost it. But that's Lamar, though, that's his way. He never carried no cash money with him, so.
One of the things
it was nice. I mean, the hunch, I mean, I just thought the world of him, man.
But one of the things that I've heard about him from some of your former teammates, I've gotten to know Curtis McClinton through the years, and my very first favorite Chief was Chris Burford, and I finally figured out why. Is because I wasn't the fastest kid in the neighborhood, and I wasn't the biggest kid in the neighborhood, but if they threw me the ball, I would catch it, and I also had a flat top, so people said I reminded him of Chris Burford, and I asked him about some of these things. And one of the things that I like to talk to former Chiefs about is Lamar's role in making the team, the players, feel like family. And from a racial standpoint, in Dallas, where it was not popular to have black players and white players be together, be a team, that Lamar would insist that his team would not stay in a hotel where the black players were not welcome. How much of an impact did that make on you personally, being a black man?
Well, hey, the thing is, that's one thing I like about Lamar. I came from the South, and it's all segregated. I rode on the back of the bus, and I couldn't eat in the restaurant. But Lamar, like I told you before, he came up to me. I talked to him, and first thing he said, I have a team, Dallas, Texas. I want you to be part of the family. That's what he said. I want you to be part of the family. That's his words came out. I said, wow, okay. I can go along with that, part of the family, because you're brothers and sisters, you're part of the family. And that's how he approached. And whatever he said, and when I told you about the contract, and I looked at my Don Knutson, I said, hey, Don, what about Hank signing it, And Don Knutson looked at me and said, Lamar said, you got a deal. His word is like gold. That's his son. If he said you got a deal, you got a deal. He can sign it 5 months from now. He'll agree to everything you said on it. Boom.
That's really
and
cool.
That's what it was. And every time Lamar would come up, he would see me somewhere out, because even when I got out of the football from it, and it just that he approached you in a way, hey, what's going on? I mean, he'll see you somewhere. He walks out of his way to get to you and just say, how your family doing? You okay? You need anything? Do you need anything? And that was Lamar. He'll call me Colette. He said, oh, I used to tease him, and he loves it, I tease him all the time. And I said, Lamar, you didn't call me back. Oh, man, he gets upset. You called? When did you call me? How do you get your message? I said, Lamar, you didn't call me back. And he gets, I stopped doing that because he got upset because he missed a phone call, Hey, one time, I'll tell you another story. I got a lot of stories, Lamar. I used to, after I got out of football, I used to fly into Dallas and do an appearance at the 6 o'clock dinner or something like that. And I catch that last plane, American Airlines plane, back to Kansas City, like on a Wednesday night. That's when Lamar catch that last plane out of Dallas. He wouldn't, he would fly back. So the first time I met him, I was getting on the plane. And Lamar walks up. Where you going? Bill, you going back to the Chiefs? I mean, Kansas City? I said, yeah. He said, I'm going too. I said, oh, okay. All right. He said, all right. We just sitting there talking. And at that time, I knew a lot of the people at the gates, and they would bump me up to first class, And I'm riding first class. Lamar rolled in back in the coach.
Wow.
So we getting on this plane, and Lamar gets on the plane. He getting on the plane. He's walking. He was walking through first class because I already went up there. I said, "Give me your ticket. I want to get it. We're gonna sit together." I go up and tell the guy. I said, "Can we get 2 tickets?" He said, "Oh yeah, we get tickets." He bumped us up to the first class, 2 seats together. Lamar was going right through the first class. Said, Lamar, our seats right here. No, they're back here. And I said, no, Lamar. He said, no, it's back here. I said, no. Yeah, we got seats right here. He sits there because he don't like to sit there.
Yeah.
He sit there, and he sit there with his book. He writes stuff, notes. He writes notes. He always writes notes, writing down stuff. And I always get a note from I was on a plane. He said, Bill, I was on a plane with somebody, and they said they were talking about you, and he write me a note, and they said, man, I met Bobby Bell. He's a super guy. And Lamar would call me or either write me a note and tell me what somebody said. He
That's
did.
really cool. I want to wrap up with, I've got three more questions for you. You talked about throwing over the tower where Coach Stram was. The story I had heard, and you and I have talked about this, that one time after practice, the quarterbacks were seeing who could throw it the farthest. And after whoever it was that won, I don't know if it was Lenny or somebody else, you said, how far was it? And somebody said 75 yards or whatever. And you said, I can beat that. And they didn't believe it. And you threw it more than 80 yards. You stood on the 20 and threw it at the other end zone. Is that true?
I don't know. I guess so. I don't know. I don't. Well, I don't like that. I mean, people, always saying, somebody told you about that, didn't they?
Yeah, and I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard it a long time ago. So I think it's probably true. If you could throw it over a tower and that wasn't standing right underneath it, I'm guessing you could probably throw it. And people talk about Patrick Mahomes' arm strength, and he can throw it 80 yards, and you were a linebacker.
Yeah.
throwing it 80 yards and a spiral.
It's got to be a bullet, You had to. I mean, I love when people challenge you,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So somebody said you couldn't do it. I said, yeah, okay. I throw it. It's just like, it's another one. Like, look at the extra points, field goals and stuff. I love doing that. And Jan Stenerud, I told Lenny used to tease Jan Stenerud, say, hey, listen, you gotta understand, before you can hit that ball, it's got to start up there with Bobby. And then I got to make sure I put it down. And we talked to each other. I said, hey, guys, I want to make you guys all pro. And I told Jan, you watch us. Can you believe what happened? I told him, I said, you remember the story I told you guys, I'm going to make you guys all pro? I said, look around. We all three of us in the Hall of Fame.
Yep. All right. I grew up in Kansas City in the 60s, and people like me who grew up in Kansas City in the 60s, in fact, I'll tell it this way. My parents used to tell my brother and me, hate is not a virtue that's allowed in this home. It's just, we're not allowed to hate, except the Raiders. We were allowed to hate the Raiders. Did the Chiefs players hate the Raiders like the fans did?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say hate the Raiders. I would tell you this. Every time we played the Raiders, it was like a Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
It was like a Super Bowl. We knew twice a year that we had our hands full. Raiders could have had the worst team in the world.
Yeah.
When we played together, everybody, that's why the fans and the Raiders and the fans of the Kansas City, they just foam at the mouth, because this is the game that you got to go. You can't miss this game. And we used to tell all the players, hey, if you're hurting, you got to get well for this game, because there's going to be some contact. Yeah. And, and we knew it was going to be maybe 2, maybe sometimes 3 or 4 fights. Yeah. But after that, after the fight's over with, the game is over with, we shake each other's hands. Oh, we used to be I've been in restaurants like before with some of the Raiders, like Willie Brown was a good friend, Buck from Grambling, we might have dinner together the night before or something like that, meet, and if one of the fans walked by and said, holy mackerel, they get upset, see us sitting there together. And they would go, wait a minute, that guy's a Raider, Well, a Raider, I said, no, man. But, when we get on the field, it's totally different. We know it's going to be a dog fight out there. It's going to be tough. Every game that we played with the Raiders, was it was unbelievable. Al Davidson was he's the guy. Yeah. He made sure that we was tagged. And I tell you another story. Nobody, I don't tell this much. Al Davis used to come to me, Bell, are you happy? He said, I'll make you a Raider in a minute. Every game that I played against the Raiders, Al Davis, he would come up to me or say something to me. Hey, Bell, he would look all over the place and say, are you happy? I can make you happy, That was Al. But that was a game, man. That was it. I mean,
one of my best friends is a Raiders fan, lifelong Raiders fan. Grew up in LA when the Raiders were there. Went to college in Fresno after the Raiders moved back to Oakland. And I talked to him 2 or 3 times a week. He lives out in Denver now. I talk to him quite often. And pretty regularly, I remind him that the Chiefs are still the reigning AFL champs. You guys won in Oakland in the very last game of the AFL. Is that something you carry with you, that you're the reigning AFL champs?
Oh, yeah. I mean, some things you can't, nobody else can be able to say that or claim that,
Yeah.
Nobody else can claim that, Nobody can claim that we as a chief organization played in the first Super Bowl.
Right.
We didn't have 64 guys can say that. That's all.
Yeah.
That's in this thing, 64 guys can say, I played in that first game.
Yeah. I want to wrap up with this one thing, and I think this is really cool. And I know we've talked all about your football career, but to me, this is just as significant. You graduated from the University of Minnesota in 2015. 52 years after leaving school to play pro football. Why was it important for you to go back and get your degree? I mean, obviously it wasn't for career advancement, which is why a lot of people get that sheepskin. Why did you decide to graduate?
Well, I was getting ready to change jobs, I guess. I need to get my degree to get this job. No. That wasn't it. The thing is, some of the biggest things that happened to me in Minnesota is my dad and mom. They just, they were together and they taught me, treat people the way you want to be treated. Mm-hmm. That's what I did. And the thing about going back to Minnesota, I promised my dad now, I'm going to the University of Minnesota, big school, and everybody was saying, oh, what, you're going to be lost and stuff. I told my dad, I'm going up there, I'm going to get my degree, and I'm going to leave, come back down south, and I was going to go in and open up parks for Black, kids all over the South. That's what I want to do. And I promised him that, So my dad just kind of, no words how. When he put me on the plane to go back to Minnesota to start school, he reached in his pocket and wasn't wrapped, pulled out a watch, a gold Bulliver watch, and gave it to me. He said, son, I don't have much to give you. He said, I'm giving you my last name, and here's a gold watch. I want you to be on time.
Wow.
And I still have the gold watch. And I was telling Pam one day, a few years ago, whenever I decided to go back to school, I said, all my wall in my man cave, I didn't have something. And I said, I don't have my degree. And I said, I'm going back to school and I'm going to get my degree. I said, I was like 3 credits short, Yeah. I said, only reason I didn't take it is because coach said I couldn't take that class during football season, my senior year, and I can get it in the fall. In the spring, and they didn't offer that course. So I ended up playing in the pros and stuff like that, and just kept on, worked with General Motors, ran 5 restaurants, and I was just going, I was going all over, and I just said, I owe that to my dad. I promised my dad. So I went I go back to the University of Minnesota every year, all the time. So one time I just told him, I said, hey, I need to get my degree. Can we all figure out what I got to do? Because I'm going back to school.
That's really cool.
They looked at me and said, oh, okay. So I ended up, they took them about a month because they had to go back and get everything's in pencil. Transcripts were all written in pencil stuff.
Yeah.
This is some years ago. And they had to find it. And they came back and said, Bobby, holy mackerel, you don't have to. I mean, yeah, you can do that. And I applied for classes, you know. I instead of taking 3, I applied for 3, 4 more classes and stuff. And I did it online. I was going to end up at Minnesota going back. I was going to move back up there and go get it, you know. They said, no. Bobby, they got computers now. You know, you can do stuff online.
Yeah.
I said, what? Oh, yeah. And I said, okay. And I signed up and I said, how much I owe, you know. I was going to pay for it, you know.
Yeah.
And they said, you don't owe us nothing. That's part of your scholarship.
Wow.
Yeah, that was part of it. It was part of your scholarship. You know, in the book. You see that?
Yeah.
You see that watch on my hand?
Yeah.
That's the watch he gave me. And you saw the ring.
Yeah. Yeah, you showed me the ring. You had both the one that you got from Super Bowl 4 plus the one the Chiefs gave you for Super Bowl 54. You showed me both of those.
You see that?
Yeah. That's really cool. That's really cool. I'll tell you. Hey. I'll tell you what. As a longtime Chiefs fan, I have looked up to you for many years. But doing what you did to graduate, and I remember the story at the time saying, you saying you did it for your dad. That inspired an awful lot of people, probably more people than were inspired by your football career. So I want to say congratulations for that, and that's really cool. I love that bobblehead. That is cool.
A friend of mine, a real close friend, had that made. Oh yeah. On top of it, it's got 78. The
there you go.
Retired.
Look at the resemblance.
It looks pretty good.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I thought, but the guy, a friend of mine, had that made. He had 21 of them made, and people try to buy them from me. I have guys that offer me $5,000-$6,000.
Wow.
He said, "Hey man, I like to have one." So
that's pretty cool.
I had some good time. God has been good to me, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as always, I've probably been with you maybe half a dozen times. I think the first time I met you, you spoke at my in-laws' church. That's probably been 20 years ago. And obviously you came to a book signing with my Chiefs book. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you. I always end up laughing way more than talking. And so I appreciate you joining me again today.
Boy, I appreciate you inviting me, and it's just an honor for me to be here and talk to you.
All right. Well, you have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Sports Connections with David Smale. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and rate the show from your favorite podcast platform. You can learn more about David Smale and his work by visiting davidsmalebooks.com. Don't forget to join us weekly for new episodes. Until next time.